evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the town board for this evening. We'll start with the pledge and flag by Councilman Isaac. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brenda, can you call the roll, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Present.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Present.
Councilman Froelich.
Present.
Councilman Isaacson.
Present.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Present. Okay, we will begin with our opening public comment session. If anybody would like to speak, please raise your hand. You'll be called on. That'll be 3 minutes. Yes. Turn the microphone on. There you go.
My name is Lisa Marie Dapper, 15 Huntington Way, Buxton Spa. Go through this very long laundry list I have of things. Good evening. There have been a few things I would like to address this evening as I've been observing the concerning items and actions upon the past 3 weeks or so, or 3 meetings or so. Because this item is the closest to home, and literally, I'd like to question the panel on the status of the investigation and resolution of the alleged bullet in the Fair Oaks community. My question of this is not to determine the legitimacy of the event that took place, but to question the actions of the safety measures of the gun club going forward. This will not only affect my hometown community directly, but also the new builds going up by Bella directly bordering our development. I would like this addressed no later than the next town meeting. As a scheduled item, with action by the board to be putting the peace of mind to the community. Not with hearsay or outright lies, but actual data, facts, and a real plan put in motion. This is owed to the community. The next item to consider, which was brought up by first in the public comment by a member of our community, is the negative and alleged harassment treatment of women in the community, especially during the election. I'm here to say to whomever and to all of those running, this will not be tolerated. Hell have to know woman or fury like woman scorn, and I do urge all of you to keep that in mind. In relation to negative treatment, which goes well beyond the women in this community and has directly affected the seniors who have been set aside, overlooked, and flat out lied to, I have to comment that as a construction and accounting professional, you, the elected officials of Milton, are doing a disservice to our community, especially the seniors, in your empty promises and unachievable timelines and modifications of town hall. Frankly, the construction industry is at an all-time maximum limit and will not only with supply issue chains, but price hikes along the board, across the board, not your board. As well as myself, several people in this room who happen to share this profession, no, there is a slim to no chance that you're on schedule to finish the renovation and move the seniors back in this building in 2022. As the contracts were only executed mere weeks ago, and supplies are 6 to 12 weeks in lead time for anything that's not currently in stock. Basically, nothing's in stock. So, be honest with yourselves and the seniors and help them get back in this building. Town hall is not needed to this building, in my knowledge, and last I knew, squatting was frowned on.
1 minute, ma'am.
Another close to home item is the ongoing issue of the airport. First crash today. It has been asked of you to create a committee to handle matters of this issue with the risks to our community such as safety, health, property value. A committee to investigate and address such concerns is the literal least you can do. Next to the blank stares, which is in fact what I see when anyone brings up this topic, aside from combative statements that leave no resolve. Finally, in closing, no matter if you're running on a united front, on integrity and honesty, on old school prudies that come to save the day and apply, fix everything, you need to abide by laws. I've lived in both small towns and huge cities throughout my life, and the lawlessness of actions taken by our elected officials, past and present, while not surprising, is disheartening. Take a hard look at this town, our needs, our desires, our struggles, and then take a look at yourselves. No matter if you want to keep your post, get in a new position, or get back on the panel, really think about it. Think of if you're up to the task. There's a number of new residents in town, new communities, and real turnover from the real estate boom. We want real change, real leadership, and real support. We elect officials to be our voice, but if you do not echo ours,
Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up.
absolutely. Please know and truly understand that we will fight for someone who does echo our voices.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Rossi.
Frank Rossi Jr., 63 Saratoga Avenue, Apartment B, Boston Spa, New York. Gojans had it a little wrong earlier, so every time I've said it, they're not picking it up yet. 63, guys.
God.
St. Martin's and letters that over there. I try to start a little funny every so often, but the things that have been happening around us have not been funny over the last few months, pretty obviously. First off, because it's a Zoom-only meeting, which it shouldn't be in Ballston Spa, Larry Woolbright, our mayor, did not get to hear the reaction firsthand of the community's appreciation for the job he has done over the last 2 years, leaving us on Friday, resigning for what I would call understandable reasons, as he, for 15 minutes, spelled out in one of the best speeches I've ever heard a politician give. I would ask the audience here, to the degree possible, to give a reaction. If you appreciated Mayor Woolbright, we'll make sure he hears it. Thank you to Mayor Woolbright for his job that he's done over the last 2 years. I am appreciative of the previous speaker stating what she stated, because it's not only just conjecture on the senior issue, but it's reality. As you know, I do have connections with various engineers throughout the community from the work I've done over the years. And I did ask the question of somebody connected with MJ about the situation of Town Hall, the Senior Center, etc. here. The reaction was something that I warned against months ago, about making this election the primary focus of your existence as a public servant.
Sir, we are not going to discuss
It is a reality.
elections,
Benny,
races. Mr. Rossi,
Benny, it
I'm
is.
going to ask you very politely.
Jim, could you please instruct the supervisor that mentioning an election is not electioneering, and that is what is banned here. I'm not electioneering. I'm stating facts about a current issue in this town.
Go ahead, sir.
As I was saying, I warned you a few months ago not to use the election as the focus of your job as a public servant. The statement made to me was, when I asked about that December date that you promised in the last meeting was sacrosanct.
No, we did. No, go ahead, sir.
Really? Really? Barb Roderson was right when she said the seniors don't trust you and shouldn't trust you. You just said that. The answer was, because the supervisor is so focused on getting reelected, quote, he's not there right now to look at what's going on, and the date could easily slip into 2022. Furthermore, if not for John Frolish's abilities and attention, it would have slipped there well before now. That's pretty interesting to hear. It's not just a logistical issue that we're facing here. It's a reality of attention in this town. We said it months ago. Don't put us through election hell. You're putting us through election hell right now. The seniors don't deserve this. Long time ago, I didn't necessarily see eye to eye with them on their whole aspect of, getting the center back and everything else. It wouldn't take so long, this and that. You know what? I was wrong. And I've admitted that much here. They deserve better than this. Stop putting elections in front of the seniors. That goes for all of you. I don't care who you are. Stop. Fix this problem. Get them back in here ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Linda?
Thank you. My name is Linda Elmer. I live at 42 Frederick Street, and I'm the president of the Boston Area Seniors. I have an update on a couple of things for you. I just want to make sure what new. We have to move. The gym has been rented, which where'd you go? I totally understand that we knew it was gonna happen at one time. But my goodness, they've let us stay there almost a year. We've been in that building, and it's been, seniors are very appreciative of that. We have to move. What we're going to do on we need to be out by Friday. So we're having our meeting tomorrow, and we're getting all our personal stuff out. And then on Friday, I've arranged with Benny, the town needs to show up and pick up the tables and chairs. And once we've done that, we'll do a quick vacuum and we'll be out. I have had something in my back pocket for a while, just in case we had to move in a hurry. And we are going to be moving to the VFW 358 post down here on East North Street. Everyone probably knows where it is. They just had a big remodel. They have a big meeting room. They've got tables and chairs for us. They got a bathroom. There's ample parking. They have a kitchen. And they're also not charging us. So I thank them for that also. So we got some dates for November and December, and if we have to, we can get some for January. And I've just been told, the other update I had by Mr. Froelich, that the demo is on target for completion and maybe even slightly ahead. Those were his words. That is correct?
That's correct.
Okay, y'all heard that?
And to be honest with everybody, and I'll take the blame for it, I said you'd be back by the first of the year, and I'm working as diligently as I can to get you there.
Okay, that's your understanding too, Supervisor?
I think that's what was said 2 weeks ago, that we would do everything we could to have you guys, to have us back in there.
All right.
That we are not responsible for delays and problems that occur. I think John and I both said that, and if we promised, then I don't recall saying promise. I thought we both said we would do the best we could to make sure that building was inhabitable by the end of December.
Okay. I have made arrangements. I talk with John once a week, so we're getting updates all the time. And I really ask, you say you're going to do all you can. I really need to have you really work on that, because moves just aren't easy for the seniors at all. We've just barely started where they were getting comfortable at the gym, and it's only been a year. So,
1 minute, Linda, please.
okay, I think that I said everything I wanted to say. Yeah, that's it. Just that we have to move, we found a place, but it's not the senior center.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ray?
Ray Otten, 16 Newport Avenue, here is a private citizen this time. 3 suggestions. First and foremost, as a person in a wheelchair and a person who has struggles getting around on a day-to-day basis, I would like to see when we reopen this for the seniors, because who knows, maybe I'll want to join them when I get old enough. I'd like to be able to get in here. And right now, it's a real struggle. I have to have somebody hold the door. It's got an angle like this, and it's a wheelchair up. It's not ADA compliant to get us into the building. We need buttons. They didn't have them when they built the new building for public health. And I had a talk with Mike Zerlo, and he took care of it within 3 weeks. We had them up there. Secondly, we're doing a lot of renovation work on the town hall. Guess what that means? that needs doors that open from the outside and a push of a button. It's a couple $1,000s. It's not a huge expense, but it's going to make it a lot easier for those of us that need those things. Third suggestion, and I'll get off of here. I find it very distracting when whoever is supervisor is running the time clock on us for our 3 minutes. I would suggest, because I want your full attention when I'm talking, that maybe the deputy or someone else is assigned to keeping a time clock. It's just something that could be very easily done, and then we have your full attention. You're looking at us, not at your watch.
Okay,
Just suggestions. Thank you.
yep, I get it. We have a couple people on the line. Mr. Dawson. You're up, Mr. Dawson. He was. Hang on just a second, sir. Hold on. Try it again, Mr. Dawson. Nope. Hang on just a second. Ryan, I think I might need some technical help here. I don't know what the problem is.
Says the audience out there, Benny, can hear Tony Dawson.
Who can?
Everybody out on Zoom can hear him.
Everybody on Zoom can hear him.
Unmute it.
I can't hear.
He is unmuted.
You hear?
No.
You, that's because we're muted.
Speaker line?
That's all the way up.
Is he literally on Zoom right now, or I could go grab him and put him over the microphone?
Well, hang on just a second. What is that?
So they can hear him on Zoom.
All right, I'm just going to try somebody else, Mr. Dawson. We'll come back to you. Ms. Pitsis. You have to unmute yourself. No, she's not either. Okay. Hang on just a minute, please.
Can we hear when yours?
Until you
There you go.
John, your microphone's going to be a lot better than that microphone.
Hang on a second. I think
Well,
maybe this was
hear.
off.
Picking up Benny right now.
Oh, you're picking up Tony Dawson.
No, I've got my speakers.
Yeah,
Those are my speakers.
you're coming through my computer, all right?
I don't know why Mr. Dawson isn't coming through here.
Can you hear me now, Benny?
Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Would you like me to start? Tony Dawson?
Please do.
Okay. Tony Dawson, Planet Waste and Recycling, 274 Greenfield Avenue, Boston Spa, New York. On October 5th, 2021, I submitted a FOIL request for any and all correspondence and documentation between any Town of Milton board member and any representative, Barton or Lajunas, regarding noise study specific to Resolution 42-2021. To date, I have received nothing in response to my FOIL request. On October 20th, I asked Supervisor Zlotnick
to delay any representative from BNL from appearing before this board or to be placed on this agenda until I received and had an opportunity to review the information in response to my FOIA request, and also to be placed on the agenda immediately following BNL. Both of my requests were denied with no explanation, and there was no response to my October 22nd appeal to Supervisor's Office. Both a BNL proposal provided dated July 23rd, 2021, signed by Supervisor Zlotnick on July 16th, and Resolution 42-2021 passed by this board on July 14th is what was prescribed by BNL and authorized by this board. A 2-week noise study managed by biased, perhaps non-compliant property owners boarding my facility is not what this board approved and is simply unethical. Despite the fact that I have not yet received response to my FOIA request, I have received compelling information supporting the fact that the initial scope of work was in fact completed and offered nothing to advance Councilwoman Kerr's agenda, which is most likely why the scope of work was then modified, completely compromising the integrity of this study. In closing, I would like to remind this board that on record at the June 1, 2021 meeting, it was stated in summary that the town attorneys were going to review the facts regarding my company and their opinion was going to be final. At the June 9, 2021 meeting, in response to Ms. Judah's inquiry, on record, Supervisor Zlotnick stated, both town attorneys, Mr. Craig and Mr. Kinnery's opinion is that Planet has not been illegally grandfathered, and as far as the town is concerned, this issue is now taken care of. I ask this board to honor the global intent of the June 1st meeting, and as stated on record during the June 1st and June 9th meeting, as this is singling my company out, it is approaching harassment and must end, and I renew my objection to the use of the BNL study for any reason. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we'll try again for Ms. Pistis. Are you there, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead, please.
My name is Marion Pitsis. I live at 516 Elk Circle, Ballston Spa. I brought this up before and forgot to follow up on it. There is a crosswalk at Geyser Road and Deer Run, and all it is a painted line in the road, and there's a sign by it. I had requested, I don't remember when, that they put in a flashing light with the ability for a pedestrian to press a button for that flashing light to come on. 2 people have almost been hit in that crosswalk. And the lights that are on Geyser Road down farther in the city of Saratoga by the school, those are the type of lights that I think would be very beneficial for this crosswalk at Geyser Road and Deer Run Drive. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Mrs. Rosen.
Gina Morosi, can you hear me? Ray, what'd you do? Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane, Ballston Spa. A couple weeks ago, I became a senior.
Congratulations.
Actually, it's been more than a couple weeks. I acknowledged it a couple weeks ago. And I joined my people. And on behalf of my people, I'd like to extend a thank you to Mr. Bogosian and Mr. Bogosian for your generosity, for your hospitality. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for the use of your place. Now you can clap. So as a senior, I'd like to ask if there's been any progress, on the Liberty Hills Water District.
There is, and I will have that information later in the evening under old business.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Tom?
Good evening. evening, Tom Bogosian, Middle Line Road, Boston Spa. First, let me say, it's great to see all you folks here today. And I would love to see each and every one of you here at every meeting. It would really help make better government in the town of Milton. It's been our honor and privilege to host the seniors. We're sorry that we have leased it out, but not real sorry because it happens to be our business. And we are happy that we have a lease. We're happy we have a new business coming to the town of Milton. And as I said, it's been our privilege and honor to host you. And Gina, I'm a senior also, so I will take care of our own. Now to the topic at hand. I'll give this to you, Frank. You can take one and pass one down. Last meeting, Supervisor Zlotnick mentioned you'd signed an agreement with MJ Engineering, and because I'm a foil artist, I did foil the agreement, and because we have a great foil officer, she struggled through and was able to obtain the agreement from MJ because it wasn't available from our officials here. That would be you, Supervisor Zlotnick, or our controller did not provide this. This is a engineering agreement with MJ to the tune of $3,500. I doubt any of you have seen it, but Mr. Zlotnick has bound this board to an agreement with MJ Engineering for the $3,500. I don't know what authority you had to execute that without a board motion, but I'd be interested to know that. There's a couple of things on this. The scope of services. MJ will obtain the current charges imposed in the unit structure for application of charges. Well, it's $2,000 for an ERU as it exists now, and that's 5 years overdue. Number 2 task, compare heritage connection charges to other system charges in Saratoga County. Illegal. There's no comparison in the law. Transportation Corporation law is clear on that. It has to do with certified cost, has nothing to do with comparison. And 3, task 3, you don't need it because I've already answered the other 2 questions for you for free. Provide a letter. The only reason this was signed was from some sort of political expediency, because the most important thing is the task not included in this proposal. Detailed review of how Heritage arrives at their current connection fees. Number 1, Heritage does not arrive at their current connection fees. That's the job of this board. And number 2, when Heritage was provided the opportunity to come in front of this board and provide sworn testimony for free, they refused to.
About 30 seconds, sir.
Thank you. You're spending my money foolishly. You're not doing your job. In fact, you are doing it illegally. Thank you.
Anyone else? Bruce?
Thank you for your kind words, and I'll just echo Tom's statement. We've been happy to host you all. Wish you well in your new place. Just to follow up on what my brother Tom was saying is, once again, this administration has ignored and violated New York State law. Transportation Corporation Law, Section 118, Paragraph 1 and 1C state the following. The local governing body, that's you guys, shall utilize any licensed professional engineer in its own personnel staff, or retain a licensed professional engineer or engineering firm to cause the following to be undertaken and completed. The following include a report to the local governing body on the cost of construction of the sewer works. There is nowhere in Transportation Corporation law that references the term comparison. But that is exactly, Mr. Supervisor, what you have done in direct contravention to New York State law. Paragraph 1C further states, the services of a licensed certified public accountant or licensed public accountant may be utilized wherein the judgment of the engineer they may be required to properly ascertain and verify the fiscal information to be included in the engineer's report. That's the text of the law. So in other words, if the engineer can't determine the cost, he would need to hire an accountant to do that. Here's the good part of the law, and this is good news for everyone here. Heritage Springs has to pay this charge. Paragraph 2 of section 118 says the cost of any such retained licensed professional engineering services shall, not should or could, shall, and Jim can explain what that means under law, shall be reimbursed to the local governing body by the corporation in accordance with an agreement which shall be entered into between such local governing body or cert agency. This is yet another violation of New York State law, Mr. Supervisor. You have committed to engineering services without entering into the required agreement with Heritage. It's a violation of the law. Could somebody possibly answer on this board why we, the town, can't finance the property for Mr. Otten's emergency court? I believe Jim Craig said at the last meeting it wasn't allowed under the law. Why would we be concerned about that? We don't care about the law. Only certain times we care about the law. Maybe it's to protect your friends. That's when you want to ignore the law.
About 30 seconds.
At the expense of the taxpayers. You have the opportunity to save the taxpayers of this town upwards of $400,000, and you choose to violate the law to prevent that. It's incomprehensible. After all, Mr. Supervisor, your track record for the past 2 years has been to ignore and violate New York State law. You need to go.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Kevin Harkins, 224 from Saratoga Court. For those who don't know me, I am the Chief Range Safety Officer with the KRS Fishing Game Club. I've been involved with the Sheriff's Department since September 20th when that incident happened. We are still working with them. So far, they've determined the window was broken. They do not know what broke it. We have reviewed our safety procedures. We have reviewed the safety protocols. We reviewed with our members, and we're still working with the Sheriff's Office. I personally hope to have this thing wrapped up in the next month, if not sooner. I have a suspicion, I'm not going to get into it because I don't know the fact of what happened. We're taking steps now to see if we can pinpoint it with evidence we can share with the board and the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Michelle Judah, 34 Van Castle Lane. I have come before the board several times talking about the request and desire of myself and I believe many of your constituents for more transparency in regards to budgeting, financing, where the town stands. You can't make those kind of statements if you're not going to put in the work when there's opportunities to learn. I have watched, I've listened on Zoom and then watched the recordings of the committee meetings for the budget, the most recent budget workshops. I came last night because you couldn't hear on Zoom very well. Because I've talked about it, I just felt an obligation to stand up and say thank you to the members of the budget committee who worked through this process under the leadership of the supervisor. A very sincere thank you to the department heads that work for the town. I found them to be very thoughtful, on top of and thinking of our best interest, thinking ahead to what we need. And I really sincerely want to thank the controller. I do wish that the story was told on a more regular basis so that we would understand the story. But I found him to be extremely competent, and I think he's been treated very unfairly. Anyone, if that's the supervisor, I don't know, Barb, if you had something to do, and as the deputy supervisor, whoever was responsible for hiring him, he should really be commended. I find him to have a very good understanding of what's happening, and I feel that we're in good hands with him. There was two things that I heard in that I think is important for everyone to know, and one of them was said last night, and if you weren't here, you wouldn't have gotten it on Zoom. One is that the controller tells us that we are in very solid, good financial position. Very important for us to know. And the other thing that he said last night is that we have a long history in Milton of using fund balances. And I'm not here to say that I think that's a good idea. I do not. All right, but we have been using fund balances to balance our budget every year. He said that over the last 20 years, on average, we use 1.2 million of our fund balance to balance the budget every single year on average. The budget that was put forth to the board this year used 608,000. So that was an improvement. I think we can all agree, something we can agree on, that we do need that plan for forward thinking. How do we build those fund balances? How do we want to use them? But I also think it's extremely important and only fair to say that the lack of planning has been over many, many years. You know, the town hall didn't fall apart in 6 months. It's been a very long time. Salaries have not been competitive because those decisions weren't made over a very long time. And I've seen personally where the board does not make the decisions that need to be made when there's money that needs to be spent for these things. It has existed for a long time. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to find a way to move forward together.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public comment. Move on to our agenda items. First up will be a public hearing on the proposed tax cap override. Anybody would like to speak on this issue?
It was put in the paper.
We will dispense with the reading of the advertisement. Would anyone like to speak on the... Mr. Rossi.
63, guys. Frank Rossi Jr. dispensing with my address just to avoid stalking after this meeting at this point. Ready to have it. I'm confused here at this point because from what I'm understanding from what people have told me since you couldn't hear it online last night, that we're going to 0% after being at minus 9%, after being at plus 89.5%. So at this point the question is, if we're not going over 2%, then why are we doing the tax cap override? I think legitimately in some ways it makes sense because as Mayor Woolbright sort of told us in not shy terms, just because you have a surplus or a fund balance doesn't mean you should be dipping into it because of the infrastructure issues you may have. And I think my biggest fear here, and it's been discussed tangentially, but I'm going to say it explicitly, give or take, what do we have, $800,000 of property taxes that come in that compose the budget as it sits right now? We've heard of the pipe issue and what it's leading to, not just the $40,000, but another, give or take, $200,000 of repairs. And I guess it comes down to budgeting 101 here, what that means. At the end of the day, what we're doing is hiding inside fund balance the idea that a mistake is costing us a 30% swing in property taxes. 30% of $800,000 is $240,000. And so, are we using fund balance to go to 0% to hide this so that we increase taxes next year and the year after that and the year after that? Are we using artificially high sales tax assessments or guesstimates from the county without knowing if we're going to have another pause of some sort or effect via COVID of our economy locally? So on one hand, I understand what we're doing here, but on the other, it doesn't seem to mesh with what's being said out there. So I guess, I know it's not direct Q&A, but maybe you could discuss in your discussion why we're doing this and where we exactly are if we are doing this right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bogosian.
I have my own timer, so you don't need to use yours. On the way to the meeting tonight, I stopped by Stewart's because I needed to fill up my truck with gas, and noticed the price was $3.51 a gallon. It's not the only thing that's gotten more expensive. This young lady mentioned in construction the delays and the cost of material is skyrocketing. Inflation is taking off like we haven't seen in decades. You have seniors here that live on fixed incomes, and I highly doubt the Social Security increase is going to keep up with inflation. I don't think so. And you're talking about raising the tax cap, which keeps taxes in line. You know, I know this isn't Washington, D.C., but in Washington, D.C., we have ineffective, incoherent, and incompetent leadership, which is the root cause of a lot of these problems we're experiencing today. We don't need to bring that type of leadership to the town of Milton. And as a taxpayer, what I've seen and what my taxes have paid for is ineffective and incompetent leadership. And I'm tired of paying for crap. We expect excellence and want to pay for excellence. I don't mind going out to dinner and paying a lot of money if it's a good dinner. But if I'm paying a lot of money and the dinner sucks, that's no good. Well, right now, the dinner in the town of Milton sucks. I can't say it any more plain. The level of incompetence is off the charts. So why, if you're not planning on raising taxes, do we need to increase or get rid of the tax cap? That's something you need to explain to the public. Secondly, as I've mentioned previously, you had an opportunity to save the public over $400,000 and you chose not to. You chose to blow it off. You yourself, Mr. Zlotnick, canceled the rate hearing. For what reason? So the public can continue to pay over $400,000. Now you want to come and say, hey,
Mr. Bogosian, this public hearing is about the budget.
Excuse me, this is not a back and forth. You've said it yourself, so don't interrupt me. So,
You're off topic, sir.
I'm not off topic.
Yes, you are. This public hearing is about the tax cap.
Excuse me.
Not the sewer company, not the rate review.
How many times have you said you will not respond to comments? So please do not respond. You had the opportunity to save the public over $400,000 a year. You chose not to. You worked
Your time is up, sir.
stridently against it, and now you want more money. You're not due more money.
Anyone else? Mr. Iacolucci.
Thank you. Good evening. Mike Iacolucci, 9 Russell Street. I guess I'm speaking both as a member of the Budget Committee and as a resident taxpayer of the town of Milton. A couple things, I guess, just so that everybody understands the process. Per state law, the town is required to prepare budgets and have them submitted in final form by certain dates. In completing those budgets, the board is required to meet, and then the board also is required to hold a public hearing with a minimum of 5 days before releasing to the public the preliminary budget that the town board thinks it's going to adopt. So if anyone's concerned about process and time, please understand that the board and the members of the Budget Committee and members of the public have been participating with the aim of satisfying the requirements of state law and putting together a structured, balanced budget. The second point I guess I'd like to emphasize is for any organization that budgets for a subsequent year, there are estimates involved, both in terms of revenue and in terms of expenditures. The comptroller, who I believe has been doing an excellent job, has relied on sales tax information provided by the Saratoga County Treasurer. And those estimates from the Saratoga County Treasurer are what were used as the basis for projecting 2022 sales tax receipts. I'll speak for myself, but I think the other members of the Budget Committee would agree those estimates for 2022 are reasonable. Secondly, in terms of the idea that the board has somehow sought to raise and lower the tax rate haphazardly, I would suggest that as far as the Budget Committee is concerned, it has not been a haphazard process. It's been a thoughtful process as we, members of the board and the Budget Committee, thought we needed to put together a tentative budget based on input from department heads. That is what called for, in theory, an 89% tax increase. No one involved in that process believed that was what was going to happen. And after further discussion and revisions, the budget is now where it is. That tax rate for each person in this town might be thought of as exorbitant or not enough. Each of us is entitled to his or her own opinion. The board is attempting to move the town away from where it's been over the last 15 years, which has been all over the place, and try to move toward a structured budget
And
with
have
a
to wrap up,
plan
Mike.
in place. Thank you.
Sharon?
Sharon Licata, 4th of Lane, Boston Spa. I too am speaking as Mike did as a member of the Budget Committee as well as a resident and taxpayer here. I believe the process for setting forth the tentative budget, while arduous, is finally complete, and I think we're in really good shape. Would suggest a couple of things for the next year planning on the budget. Please start earlier, and maybe we won't have this rush to finish. So that would be a recommendation before starting. I think John said August would be the best time. It's not a bad idea, really a good idea. 2 years now we've rushed to get this thing out. But I'd also like to thank the committee members and Benny Zlotnick and Dave Bramer, the controller, who I think is very qualified, highly qualified, and did a great job. The budget's pretty good right now, I think, but I personally would like to see us go to the cap, because going forward, we need to, just like we all suffer with at home, with inflation right now, you have to be able to prepare to have a little bit more money. We're already spending a little bit more on payroll for 2% as a COLA. Why can't we do that in our own town budget? I really believe we should not extend it, just go to the cap, not beyond it, but to the cap. That would be my thought on that. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bogosian?
I will be well within my 3-minute limit, I assure you of that, and I'm sure you're all tired of hearing me speak also. I am bemused when I hear people get up and talk about like the budget process and we got to follow the law, and I hear things like, well, we can't finance the community center because we got to follow the law. Well, Transportation Corporation law is New York state law that governs sewer works corporations. So I don't know why we pick and choose which laws we follow as a board. I had the opportunity to be at a meeting in Saratoga Springs where our headquarters is, and it was a meeting of people that were in the know. In the town of Milton, subject came up. And I will quote the individual. "It's the worst mismanaged town in the county." That's why we have budget issues, because we don't have proper management, because we don't plan for the future. We sign a contract for $3,500, it's in contravention of the law. We signed a contract for $4,000 to take a sound study. You need good management. You will not have an issue with budget. You need good development. You need to get rid of monopolies that have been, I don't know, corrupt, been overt in the operation, and you've been derelict in your oversight. The word was mismanagement. We need to end this mismanagement, get good management, work together, bring the citizens in, and together, we as citizens deserve good government. I do not think for a moment that you should remove the tax cap at all. Work within your budget, I have to, and everybody else here has to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Seeing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, sorry, thank you. My apologies. Mr. Licata.
Come on, Tony.
Did he push the button by accident, Sharon? He's not unmuted. There you go. Hey, Tony, you're up.
I had my hand raised earlier, so I'll get to the other comment, next comment period,
Okay.
that about the tax.
All right. We'll get back to you during regular or the last public comment. Okay. Ms. Stanko, you're up. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Supervisor, I didn't mean to have my hand raised. I just joined, I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Okay, there's no one else on Zoom, so I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Any discussion? Brenda, can you poll the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kern. Yes. Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Okay, before we vote, I'd like to explain a couple of things to the public. If we decide not to override the tax cap, then our number for next year will go down for taxes, because to come right to the penny is virtually impossible. So if we decide to not go over the tax cap and stay as close as we can to this year's numbers, the amount of money that will be taken out of the budget is about $80,000, which lowers your tax number to about 56 cents per thousand. It's about a nickel lower. I might be off a penny or two, but it's somewhere in there. If we do decide to go over the tax cap or raise the tax cap, what that does for next year, and for next year anyway, is raise the ceiling, raise the level of money that we can use for next year's number. So what we need to decide on is if we want to get moving down the right path, and we've heard a couple people say going up 2% a year with everything else wouldn't be that bad of an idea, or do we want to go the other direction and your taxes will go down about a nickel, knowing that eventually someday they're going to have to go back up. I believe those are our options. I emailed everyone this afternoon, and I thought at the time that the best option was to not override the tax cap, but I think for the long haul, which we say we're in for, and what we're trying to do is the best thing for the town, I think having the ability to go over, not $500,000 over, some small number over is the best option for the town. That's my thoughts.
Niall?
And if you want.
Yeah, a couple of things. And Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason that the override of the tax cap came is because of our assessment going up and the fact that we chose not to raise taxes and keep them level, correct?
That is a slight piece of it. Primarily the driving factor for the levy limit override would be the imposition of an increased levy by our special districts, which actually takes away from the amount that we as a town can levy to operate.
And I guess, and I will give everybody my thought on what I talked about at the budget meeting last night. I've been a big proponent of planned budgets. I've done that way ever since I've started in this. What I said last night was, if we keep the tax rate level, so nobody's paying $1 more this year, that would be the most prudent thing to do, plus it gives us some extra money to put away for problems that come up in the town. If we look at, and I don't want to say windfalls, but if we look at our financial situation as it stands, we looked at a building project of approximately 1.5, 1.6 million. We have, and what you estimate to be is a $700,000 surplus in sales tax this year. If we were in good fiscal shape, we could have taken that $700,000 and put it with the 1.6, and we could actually renovated that hall to bring in the meeting room to the first floor and getting the court the proper size. And that wouldn't have cost the taxpayers tax dollars and bonding. So I think everybody's nervous about overriding the tax cap. Because we choose to either override or not override the tax cap, that won't change this budget. All we will end up doing will be taking more unfunded or unallocated reserves, not reserve, fund, out of our fund balance. Because even if I reduce this budget by 80,000 and we keep the same rate, we will still have an override of the tax cap.
True. There's no amount of fund balance or reduction in appropriations that will change what our current situation is. There were two propositions that I provided to the board earlier. If we stay within tax cap compliance, we would depress the tax rate from the 62 cents that was imposed last year to 56 cents. It would be a 9% reduction in the rate of taxation, and the amount that we would be able to levy to fund our operations would be $757,000 as opposed to the $816,000 that we levied last year. Scenario 2 is that we override we maintain the rate at 61 cents. What that would result in is the imposition of an $831,000 tax levy on the tax base, and we would, in that scenario, override the levy only by $72,000. In the grand scheme of things, it's not.
Why not just keep the same tax rate, leave it alone, and we have a surplus?
But we still have to override the tax.
What are you guys doing? Okay, you say, don't lower my taxes, keep the same tax rate, you end up with $80,000, $90,000 more dollars, and you don't override the tax cap.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Why?
Because the tax cap is really based on the amount of money you tax
the residents
The assessments in special districts.
The
are creating a
assessment.
problem.
in special districts.
And that is off of $80,000?
Well, because we had building in the town, we get a higher assessment.
We're
If
only
you
talking
take the
about
same
$80,000.
61 cents a thousand, multiply by your
Oh, okay.
assessment last year, multiply it by your assessment this year, you would collect more than 2%.
Got
The property tax bill.
Is that the simple
it. So
explanation?
that's
Could you speak a
So-
little clearer?
Yep,
I can't
I
understand.
So you got to drop it,
apologize.
keep it this, I got it. Okay.
So I ask, and I'll ask everybody out here, does it make sense for us to do this, override the tax cap, in order to put some money aside for the problems we have in the town?
No, it's best to become more fiscally responsible because you spent 10% of the $80,000 on 2 engineering studies. 10%, I mean, we're sitting here in the public, I go, what, you can't find $80,000 in a $6 million budget?
Sorry, I shouldn't have allowed.
No, you probably should have asked for a public opinion there. No, the public hearing has been closed.
Yes, but it's,
All I'm saying, it doesn't cost the average homeowner any more dollars in taxes. Simple as that.
What? Our tax.
Our taxes will stay at levels they were last year.
Is that true, Dave?
Yes.
There you go.
You know, you just did the board, you need a 3/5 majority of the board to vote to authorize the override of the tax levy limit. You know, then we keep the tax rate flat.
But again, for next year, if we, that number will again be a lower number, and 2%.
What impacts us is merely a contract that we entered into. So the amount that we levy on behalf of that special district is contractual. We have to contractually increase that levy in an amount that is, far exceeds the 2% that we have the ability to levy to stay within tax cap compliance. So I guess to Danny's point, what he's trying to expand upon is that, maybe it is even more fiscally prudent to, if we are going to override the tax levy limit, to override the levy limit by an extra $20,000 to $30,000 so that we have the ability to not have to override the levy limit in, next year.
Repeat it.
So, basically, our special districts are, we levy tax on their behalf at a rate that it far exceeds the 2% that we have the ability to levy to stay within tax cap compliance. So they eat into the amount that we can levy, and therefore would require us to decrease the tax rate to stay within levy compliance.
I guess the question is, what you're saying, Dave, if we choose to override the tax cap now,
Yep.
we are overriding it by 72,000.
Yes.
You want to add another 20,000 to that?
It's not probably a popular,
Well-
thing to say, but it would avoid having to have this, this decision next year.
What is it, 2.5% more?
So the total levies, that are considered within this, within the levy limit calculation are 1.9 million, so, yeah, 2% on that is.
2% of $2 million is $40,000.
Right.
does it affect the star exemption?
This is not a,
Well, I have a valid question. Does it affect star exemption?
no, sir, this is not a question and answer period. The public hearing is closed.
I know, God forbid the public involve themselves in their money. God forbid.
The exemption is based on recessed valuation, so that's basically a reduction of based on your age. It could be 30,000 or it could be an amount is about 30,000 if you're a senior. But all that does reduce your assessed valuation, and then you multiply the reduced assessed valuation by the tax rate to determine your tax liability.
Let's get that out.
Thank you.
Dave, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. What are we paying per, what are the residents paying per thousand right now?
Only 616,975.
Okay, if we override the tax cap, what will they be paying?
The same tax rate.
Everybody else? I think that's a little more understandable than $1 million here and $1,000 there, and, okay, if we don't override the tax cap.
We go from 62 cents to 56 cents.
Okay. So overriding it is not going to affect the tax bill, their tax bill, basically.
So there was, you bring up a good point, there was legislation, for those who aren't familiar, that was originally, it would have allowed for the providing back of resources from the Department of Tax and Finance if your municipality stayed tax cap compliant. That legislation went away in, I believe, 2015 for local government. It still is in effect for the school districts, so it's very rare that you will see a school district overact with a tax levy limit. Because if they were to do that, then more or less you as the tax payers would not receive a pretty sizable check from the Department of Tax and Finance. So no monetary impact or consequence.
Any other input there?
Yes, we need a motion to override the tax rate.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Brenda, can you poll the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
I'd like to see it stay right where it is.
That's what will happen when we override it, it will stay at the 61 cents.
Yes? I need a yes or no, Josh. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's it. She's asking you how you want to vote now.
I guess I want to go forward.
Yes. Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes,
Councilman Froelich.
Yes, I really think this gets us started on the right move forward.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalatnik.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Next up is a motion to accept the minutes from the October 13th meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Brenda, poll the board, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
yes,
Councilman Froelich.
Yes,
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalatnik.
Yes. Next up is an update from B&L on the sound study. Speak clearly into the microphone, sir. We have very interested parties on the phone.
Yes, thank you very much. Usually don't use the microphones. How's that?
That's
All
it.
right?
Yep.
Good. All right, board, thank you very much for having me come here tonight. I just wanted to, my name is Thomas Baird. I'm an associate partner with Barton Hill Judas Engineers.
I'll speak correctly to
Oh, okay, thank you. I've been doing noise studies for 29 years as part of my responsibilities. I just want to clear up any kind of misinformation or anything that is perceived to be going on with the noise study. So I can tell you that the study is not complete. There is no written correspondence between B&L and any members of the board or the board at this point right now. There's been some difficulty obtaining the proper information to properly do the noise study. We did have some residents, one resident take some measurements over the course of a 2-week period. And I do want to explain that information will not be used in the conclusions of any kind of study or be compared to any of the criteria that the town has in the noise ordinance. The type of, and also that change was made directly by me. In my experience doing these studies, there are different types of frequency response, and the way the meters handle and collect the data. There are 2 different things going on in this area. We have what's called a fast response and a slow response. And I won't get into the technical nature of the way the meters record the data and how it can be discerned from other data, but those 2 things almost conflict with each other in the type of noise measurements we're trying to get here. The noise that I observed once driving by is an impulse type of noise, a loud noise that happens in a very quick instant. The remainder of the time is called background noise, and that background noise is measured a different way in environmental noise studies. Impulse noise is measured differently than environmental background noise. So you have 2 different types of noise measurements going on at the same time. I need data that I can use to calibrate the instrument in order to properly obtain the data to make it I'll put my name on it, put B&L's name on it, and hand it to the town knowing it's technically correct and will stand up to any kind of scrutiny. That has not been able to be done yet. I apologize, it's taken a little bit longer time than I expected. The proposal that we had, I assumed about 8 hours of measurements would be done. That doesn't mean I get there one day after it gets signed and everything's done. I need an 8-hour day to collect 3 30-minute measurements likely. The data being collected has been challenging because it is sporadic. I've tried a couple of different ways of being called when the loud noises are coming from Planet Recycling. I could not get there in time. One time I was in Lake George, I've been in Albany, I've been at my house in Latham, and I wasn't able to get here in time. And I do not want to charge the town for all that money. To set up a noise measurement system that collects noise, say 12, 14 hours a day, 4 or 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, is extremely expensive. It also lacks a chain of possession, where I can't see the noise source occurring the same time that data is being recorded. That is very important for me to say to you and look you straight in the eye, members of the board. Yes, that's the measurement recorded that I saw and was occurring. I think that is most important to the town. I think that is to have the data be 100% correct of what is really going on. I take this very seriously. I've been doing it for a very long time and on very high levels for big projects, and this is the way this has been transpiring through this whole process. The cost of this, it includes camping out sometimes, and during that 8-hour period, reducing the data and all that, and it also includes, I'm going to include this meeting as part of it, even though it wasn't in the scope of work. So this meeting is free to the board, it's already included, okay? I just appreciate being able to come here and explain what is happening, because there's a lot of information going back and forth, and I can certainly understand how that can occur. It's not something that's very straightforward. And it's not a straightforward assessment either, although I do have experience doing these before. This one here has some challenges. Many times the noise source is cooperative in staging an exact reproduction of what's going on there. That would be very beneficial. Mr. Dawson sent an email to my firm. I was copied on it with a bunch of information, some attachments, and some things about previous studies, and lawnmowers can go, so I can do that. I want to assure you as well that there's no influence at all, nor does anybody else have any influence at all on what I present in my report. I have a reputation, and I will not I have a professional license, and I will not jeopardize any of that for anybody or anything. So please be assured, what you will get will be objective, and it will not be swayed. And I see some smirks in the audience there, but that's, I'll be willing to talk about that at any time.
Thank you, sir. Does the board have any questions?
Just as clarification then.
Absolutely.
The noise readings you took was to calibrate your machinery?
Well, yes, I took a few measurements myself.
Yeah.
I didn't like what I saw. okay? When I brought it back to the computer, I said, I have to get some data over many periods to compare and isolate. This is what I'm looking at, okay? And I'm looking for patterns that make sense. These are seconds down here. All right, so these each one of these clicks is about a second. It's only over 3 minutes. That's all I need, but I need a lot of them. And one of the neighbors was nice to go out there and record this so I can take this and calibrate. So now I know exactly what I need to do when I can get to do that measurement.
And when we finally take measurements, you can refresh me because it's been quite a while.
Sure.
We are actually measuring all 3 sides?
I'm going to attempt to get 3 different property lines. Yes.
So that'll give us a pretty accurate or pretty general idea of what's going on all sides, with the exception of the road side.
Correct, correct. Yeah, the scope of our work and what I understand my job here is to obtain the measurements, compare them to the criteria that the town has. As far as how that's applied and how arguments go for who's grandfathered, all those things that I've heard and been sent in emails, in the email from Mr. Dawson, that's for you to decide. That's not for me to decide. My job is to give you the data and make sure it stands up.
Not to put you on the line,
Okay.
do you have any idea when this all might be finished?
Well, I would like to ask the board to discuss possibly if Planet would recreate some of the operations that they do, and we can get this done very quickly. I was privy to a few YouTube videos I saw of some operations going on in the middle of September. If we can reproduce that and get some levels, and then it goes from there, I'm done. And actually, you'll get this job for less.
One final question. I'm really not sure on noise studies. Does it make a difference, your readings now versus the fall or winter when there's no leaves on the trees versus the summer when there is leaves on the tree? Are the leaves considered what do I want to say, dampening?
No, they aren't. They're psychological dampening, that's it. As far as the sound pressure level, the trees that are there and any trees less than 100 feet thick do not have any implication at all on the results of the sound pressure. And that's what we do. Just so everyone knows, a noise meter can collect data plus or minus 2 decibels. The human ear just begins to tell the difference when there's a 3 decibel difference. So if I'm talking to you at 62 right now, if I talk to you at 65, maybe you could hear it. I think all of us up here right now, maybe that wouldn't be the case, but most of the younger people out there, they probably could. But that's what happens. And leaves and trees, they can get up to 5 decibels at 100 feet thick with evergreens and deciduous trees and thick underbrush. So, no, it won't make a difference. That's published in if anybody wants to look it up, it's published everywhere. Federal Highway Administration, DOT, EPA, DEC, everything. Any questions or anything I can help you with? Or I just want to make sure I walk out here and everybody has a good idea of what's happening and why, and there's no doubts or any questions.
So, if I heard you right, you'd like to set something up with Mr. Dawson?
I'd like to give it a try. I understand that there were 2 other noise studies done. I wouldn't call them studies, they were readings taken, but they're not with the equipment that I have that needs to be done with this. And I thought possibly one of those demonstrations were done by Planet Recycling. I don't know if that's true, I haven't seen any results of that. That would be the ideal situation, otherwise it's cat and mouse.
And how would that change the scope of what we signed?
It wouldn't change at all. My job is to give you a report, and if I have to modify it because of a decision that I make to best get the data, it's not going to change your price. In fact, that would make it cheaper because I wouldn't use up the time I have. And I don't have very much time in it right now that I'm billing the town. So please don't be concerned that you're gonna get hit with an extra bill, okay? It's not gonna happen.
Anybody out here that
So would,
has a question? Anybody?
are we thinking to contact Mr. Dawson, see if he's amenable to doing this?
He's got his hand up.
I'm sure he does, but during public comment, he'll be able to.
Well, yeah, but, you know, I want everybody to understand what's going on here. I'm kind of getting different looks out in the audience here, so.
I hope I asked enough questions to maybe everybody's concerns.
I have plenty of time if you wanna do it. I'm fine with it, and it's up to you.
I think certainly we can approach Mr. Dawson. I don't know how receptive he's gonna be.
Do you want me to ask?
I don't think we want to get in the back.
I don't want to get into a back and forth tonight, no. I will contact, you know he's going to comment during public comment. I think the board, I will reach out to Mr. Dawson tomorrow to see if he's amenable to this, or we'll find out during our second public comment session. So I think you've answered most of my questions. Anybody have any else from the board? Thank you, sir. We'll be in touch.
All right, good. And thanks again for having me talk tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up is Resolution 58, for sale of land for the community, the Community Emergency Court. Sorry about that, Ray. Resolution 58, resolution authorizing the sale of certain land owned by the town of Milton to Community Emergency Court. This is rather lengthy, so please bear with me. Whereas the town of Milton owns real property located at the corner of Brown Street and Geyser Road, tax map 190.-7-5, and whereas the westernmost portion of this subject premises are vacant land, and whereas the western portions of this subject premises are not currently used by the town or needed for town use or any municipal use, whereas the town obtained appraisals of the westernmost 2 acres and has received an offer from the Community Emergency Court to purchase 2 acres of portion of the above-mentioned parcel for the price of $200,000 in order to relocate its facility to a more centrally located area to better serve and more timely serve the needs of the community. And whereas the proposed sale is considered an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and while it may undergo coordinated review with other involved agencies, such coordinated review is unnecessary in light of there being no physical improvements proposed at this time, and there being no other external agency proposals believed to be necessary for the sale of this municipal property. And thus, the town hereby declares itself as lead agency in regards to the same, and whereas after review of the proposed action by the town engineer and compiling the review of the short environmental assessment form, and in consideration of the fact that there are no actual physical improvements being proposed by this sale, and no external agency approvals believed to be necessary for the sale of real property by the town, and that seeker will once again be more fully considered and reviewed when any future construction project is actually proposed and considered for said parcel. And based upon the recommendation of the town engineer, MJ Engineering and Land Surveying, by letter dated October 7th, it is hereby determined that said sale, transfer, and conveyance will not have any significant impact on the environment, and that the board issue a negative declaration under seeker. Whereas the town has complied with all applicable requirements and made all required determinations under and pursuant to town law seeker 6 NYCRR 617 and all other applicable laws and regulations promulgated thereunder, including without limitation the proposed sale, transfer, and conveyance of the above-mentioned property. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Milton hereby determines that a certain westernmost portion of town-owned real property in the approximate amount of 2 acres located at the corner of Brown Street and Geyser Road is no longer required for use by the town, and is further resolved that the town board authorizes sale by the town of all the town's right, title, and interest in and to the above-mentioned 2-acre parcel to the Community Emergency Corps for the purchase price of $200,000. And it is further resolved that the town board of the town of Milton is and shall be the lead agency under seeker, and hereby makes a negative determination under seeker in regards to the sale only of the within described parcel, indicating no significant environmental impacts were found to exist regarding this sale. And it is further resolved that this resolution is subject to permissive referendum as provided in town law, is that section, Jim? 64, subsection 2, 90 and 91 of the state of New York, and shall not take effect until 30 days after the date of its adoption, nor until approved by the affirmative vote of the majority of the qualified electors of the town on such proposition, if within 30 days after the adoption of this resolution, thereby filed with the town clerk of the town of Milton a petition signed and acknowledged or approved or authenticated by electors of the town qualified to vote upon a proposition to raise and expend money in a number equal to at least 5% of the total vote cast for governor in the town at the last general election held for the election of state officers, but which shall not be less than 100 in the town of the first class, nor less than 25 in the town of second class. Protesting against this resolution and requesting that it be submitted to the qualified electors of the town for their approval or disapproval. And it is further resolved that the town clerk of the town of Milton is hereby authorized and directed to post and publish notice of this resolution in accordance with section 90 of the town law of the state of New York. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Milton authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, including the authority to sign the contract of sale with regard to same, which has been reviewed, and the terms of which are hereby approved by the town board subject to the terms of this resolution. Therefore, be it resolved by the town board of the town of Milton. So I need a motion to move on resolution number 58, 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Thank you, Barbara. Any further discussion?
Yes. So, just for clarification, is there anything that we have to reproduce from that parcel once it's been developed, or is the process of, I asked these questions quite a while ago, drainage, shrubs, curb or sidewalk alterations, additional fencing, is there anything the town is going to be on the hook for that will be required once development is in progress or complete? Do we know that?
I would imagine some fencing would have to be constructed.
Fencing has to be, I would think the fencing has to be moved according to the sketch we had. The highway fencing would have to be moved back.
But I
But I mean,
think
is this something that'll come up later too? Because I had questions about the berm.
and drainage, I thought there was a section to the side of that lot where there's drainage.
If I'm
We
not
have to put something like that on the opposite side.
If I'm not mistaken, there's electrical running through that berm.
I don't know if there is or not. What, I don't,
Well, I guess the short answer of it is the sidewalks, curb cuts, that will be the responsibility of the community to do, because that will be part of the parcel. The fence moving will also probably be their responsibility. As far as the berm and the electric, I'm not really sure how much impact we will have on that.
If we retain the berm, and according to that picture we were, is the town responsible for upkeep of that berm?
If it's ours,
if
yes.
it's ours, yeah, we are now. Why wouldn't we be?
I know, but I'm just asking what, you know, is it, well, I guess we have to wait for the survey, because we don't have an official survey.
Yeah,
So see where it goes, and that's something we'll have to come to agreement with.
and I guess the short answer on the stormwater, well, there is a stormwater retention area there. It's being where they are going is probably, if we look at the parking lot, on the fringe edge of it. Because also the parking lot flows towards the town hall, and there are basins there for stormwater also. So I don't really think it affects much of that stormwater, to be honest with you.
I guess, I think we're gonna have to wait for the survey to see what we actual survey, to see what we come down to and what we run into with that. I think this basically is the agreement to sell the 2 acres at that price. We know approximately where it is. And when we get the survey, we'll know completely, not for sure. Okay?
Brenda, we pull the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes, thank you. Just for point of clarification, did we get this on? All right. Next up is a motion to set a public hearing for local law 6. Oh, right, okay. Yep, thank you, Brenda. Our next scheduled meeting is November 10th. I think I emailed everyone today about this. The county has also scheduled their budget workshop for that date, starting at 5 o'clock. Last year's budget workshop at the county was a 4.5-hour session, which I have to attend as a member of the Board of Supervisors. We can have a meeting on the 10th. Deputy Supervisor can run the meeting. We can move it to the 9th. Councilman Isakson says he is unable to attend either by Zoom or in person on the 9th. Or we could move it to the 8th, which is a Monday night, if that works for everyone.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
Disrespectful.
So I guess I'm asking for an opinion of the board.
I think we,
How about the 3rd? Can we go the first week?
well, I think we go ahead with the deputy supervisor.
Okay,
That's the simplest thing.
that is the easiest. That's the path of least resistance, yes. So we'll leave the meeting scheduled for the 10th then. Does that work for, well, of course it works, we'll have the meeting scheduled. All right, next up is a motion to set a public hearing for local law 6, 2021, Town Code 154-19B, subsection 3, and local law 7, opting out of the cannabis on-site consumption for November 10th at 7:35. As everyone knows, we have to, maybe you don't know, we have to adopt what we're going to do with cannabis sales and consumption in the town. If we opt out of sales, then the town will get no sales tax revenue from those businesses if they were to come into town. If we decide to opt in, then we will gain revenue from those retail sales. We also have the option to opt out of consumption, which means it wouldn't be like a cigar store where you could sit and have a cigar, or in this case, cannabis. So this local law will allow us to opt in on sales and opt out on on-site consumption, which I am in favor of. We need a motion to set the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Ryan.
I'll second it.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? Brendan, poll the board, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Next up is a motion to set a public hearing for local law 8, 2021, asked to approve the Route 50 corridor study and amend the comprehensive plan. And Jim has informed me that there's parties that need to be notified and Brenda needs to advertise for it, so that will be on our December 8th meeting instead of November 24th.
You're looking for a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Ryan. Any further discussion? Brenda, poll the board, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is a motion to allow the town clerk to send out letters of interest to local towing companies This is in respect to trouble that we have had a little bit of last winter with cars parked on the side of the road during snow removal. Bill has asked for this to be looked at so that he can issue tickets for people who are parking on the side of the road during storms and such when they shouldn't be, and it makes it easier for the highway department to do their job if they're not trying to plow around cars that are on our streets. So I'm looking for that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Frank.
I'll second.
Thank you, Barbara. Any discussion? Brendan, poll the board, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Next up is a motion to allow the town clerk and the building inspector to send out an RFP for property maintenance companies. This is in response to the abandoned or zombie property issue that we took care of previously. This would be for a company that would come out and take care of obvious problems at the property site, and then the bill would pass on to the taxpayers' property tax bill.
I feel like I should say it with an accent so we sound different. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Frank. Any discussion? Brenda, poll the board, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Next up was our monthly reports. Animal control, we are still in the process of looking for one, so there is no animal control report this month.
Have we got any applications on that?
I sent the board, am I doing it? Is it going on?
We have an advertisement?
No, I sent the board information to find out how it was being advertised, and nobody got back to me. Is it going on Indeed only? Is it going in the paper? How long do you want it in the paper?
If you want my feeling, I think we should put it in the paper.
The paper's like $300 for a week.
It's expensive, but I gotta be quite honest with you. And really, the judge's clerk search really showed me that putting it on Indeed, while you may save money, they got 100 applicants for a court clerk's job. Many of them which were from out of state, out of the area. I mean, it just gets to be over,
I don't know how to do Indeed. Terry and
or
Tina
whatever
did
we
it.
use.
We use Indeed. Terry has done it before. I don't know, Terry.
I don't know.
I can check with Terry tomorrow. Maybe we can limit it to, I don't know, a couple of zip codes or something. I'll check with her tomorrow. But for now,
The capital district, you can tap that one, down, so we're not getting them from Massachusetts.
Go back.
next up is the building department.
Dear Supervisors Lotnick and town board members, during the month of September, the building department processed 19 building permits and collected 8,500 in building permit fees. We completed 159 construction inspections, 59 fire safety inspections, and responded to 15 code enforcement complaints. A total of 48 permits were closed with 26 certificates of occupancy and 22 certificates of compliance being issued. We also collected 250 in zoning fees and 578.25 in planning fees. Please find the appropriate itemized report attached. Respectfully submitted, Bill Lewis, Building Inspector.
Buildings and grounds.
Buildings and grounds report. During the month of October, we have completed the following tasks: mowing of town property and parks, daily cleaning and disinfecting of community center and court, daily cleaning of parks and public restrooms, performed maintenance on park equipment, removed all items from town hall for the purpose of renovation, and preparing of all equipment for winter.
Thank you, Ryan. The controller's budget versus actual report has been filed. Next up is the highway department.
Highway Department, October monthly report. The Highway Department has started its fall cleanup. Residents may place their leaves and lawn debris curbside up until our first major snowfall. We encourage residents to get the debris curbside as quickly as possible leaves of yard debris cannot be left in the roadways, that creates both a safety issue and a stormwater management violation. Town residents can bring their lawn debris to the transfer station at 503 Geyser Road. Transfer station hours are Monday through Thursday from 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and Saturday 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Respectfully submitted, the Town Highway Department.
Next up is our historian. Take your time. There you go.
All right. I continue to work from home, answering research requests and documenting the COVID-19 pandemic. The county COVID dashboard as of this past Friday, our county has 453 active cases, which is 150 more than it was last month. There has also been 1,932 new cases over the past month, which is 395 new cases in the last month. There are currently 32 people in the hospital as of last Friday. Today it was, I think, 30. Our 7-day rolling average is at 3.2%, and sadly there has been 13 deaths over the past month in our county. My office has also received a programmatic report from the customer on the site regarding the historic building survey that was prepared for the site service water and sanitary sewer upgrades project for pump house number 1. All the requirements of the programmatic requirements have been met, and they sent me a nice book. This is the nice book they sent me. And there's some nice pictures in the back. There's lots of them in here. And of course, all about beauties. So anyway, they're under compliance. So that's the long and short of it. And they're going to be taking this, I believe, taking this one down, along with many other things that they're removing from the site. So, let's see, where am I? I also did a New York State-sponsored webinar entitled Avoid the Paper Avalanche, the Quest for the Paperless Office. This was discussed what to scan and what not to scan, and in reference to New York State Archives guidelines for digital records. It's very interesting. I'm hoping to actually create an online resource so people can do research too. So we're working on that. I also did another webinar about photo identification and tricks to help to identify photos, problem photos, and I think that can really help me in the future. On November 16th, I'll be presenting a Zoom presentation sponsored by the Academy of Lifelong Learning through the Empire State College in the Forgotten Crossroads 5-part series entitled Rock City Falls. This is an expanded version of the video that's due to be released in the near future. The next Historic Structures and Places Committee will be meeting on November 3rd on Wednesday here at the Community Center. Anyone interested in local history is welcome to attend. At our last meeting, we did discuss cemetery issues, and my office recently received records from the West Milton Cemetery that has now been listed as abandoned by the New York State Cemetery Board. We also talked about some potential preparations in regard to the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War celebration. I also attended a webinar on this that was presented on the initiative that the federal government has started in discussing their plans for celebration. The big takeaway was that they want to include as many of the 574 Native American tribes in the U.S. as possible. And I was flabbergasted that there was 574 tribes. They want to be sure that all ethnic traditions are included. I also attended a Zoom meeting with the county historian and all the other town historians in the county, and the major topic of discussion again was America 250 and what plans are starting for the county. The Saratoga County History Roundtable is having an in-person meetings now, and that are also broadcast on Facebook Live. Feel free to attend these programs, and lately they've been very well attended. And they're well advertised in the paper and on Brookside webpage, on their Facebook page. And there's really too many for me to go into right now. Lucky for you. The Saratoga County History Center, in partnership with the County History Roundtable, has just published a new book entitled Saratoga County Stories, which is a collection of all the weekly stories that have been in the local papers over the past year and a half. I wrote 2 stories in the book, and the History Center has planned 2 in-person launch events for the book. One took place this past Saturday, and they sold more than 125 books. The book launch was very well attended by 21 authors and many folks in the community. And the next book launch will be on Sunday, November 7th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the historic Brooms Tavern in Clifton Park, which is haunted. Just want you to know, you can meet the writers, the editorial team, and purchase the book and have authors sign their stories. This would make a great holiday gift. There was people coming in there Saturday who were buying piles of 4 and 5 books at a rep. So, they're going to make great holiday gifts. They are also planning for a second book. That was only 56 stories, and we're up to 88 stories right now. So they're planning for a second book. They can be purchased anytime at Brookside, and when they're open, they are $18. Happy reading, respectfully submitted. I just wanted to show you, respectfully submitted me. This is the book. And I have 2 stories, one on the Kesslering site and the Boston Terminal Railroad. And there's pictures with all of them. And there's lots of great stories in here. You'll really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I don't believe we have anything from the tax collector, and I skipped over a town clerk and registrar, so please.
All right, so for the month of September, we did 16 marriages, 6 certified marriage certificates, 47 certified death certificates, 0 birth, 2 FOIL and search of records, 141 dog licensing, 38 online dog licensing, 462 hunting and fishing licenses, 2 pavilion rentals, and 2 escrows. The town share was $3,190.24 and $4,000 in escrow.
Thank you, Brenda. Town justice report.
Milton Town Court.
Good evening, microphone.
Milton Town Court, charge, volume, charge, volume, summary, can't read my own writing.
Hang on, I'll read it for you. I'll finish it up for you, Frank. For the month of September, the court received 67 charges. They disposed of 94 of them. Fines collected were $1,705. Surcharges were $1,558. Civil fees were $274 for a total of $3,537. Next up is our...
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, Frank. Next up is our liaison report, planning and zoning boards.
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't call on me tonight. I feel like I'm at school. I left my homework home.
The dog
You
ate
don't
it.
hate it. No, when I got here, I load my computer, I load everything else, and I leave the report on my desk.
Just like a
I will give a detailed report next week, if you people will forgive me.
You'll need to stay and do the chalkboard after class, John. Okay, on county committees this month, the Buildings and Grounds Committee reached a 2-year lease with the Wilton Mall for the motor vehicle office up in the Wilton Mall. It's going to be $37.50 a month plus utilities. The Open Space Committee decided to hand out $229,000 in grants, $32,950 to the Village of Corinth to acquire 132 acres of woodlands, $95,000 to the towns of Greenfield and Wilton to acquire 435 acres of woodland, and $95,000 to the town of Malta to purchase 26 acres and protect the farmland. Moving on to old business, Mrs. Morosi, I've been in touch with the village administrator and both engineering firms to determine what information is still lacking on either part, and they're working to get back to each other, and when they can talk to each other, I'll pass that information on. Does anybody else have anything under old
I
business?
can give us an update on the town hall.
Please do, John.
I know I talked to Linda earlier tonight. The town hall demolition is ahead of schedule. To give everybody an idea, I realize your concerns about materials. We have made sure that the contractors coming in either already have the materials or the materials are readily available. We have all the ceiling tiles on site, we have all the lights on site, so we are sensitive to that. We did this week meet with, and I know this was a concern last month with the sewer connection, we did this week sit down with the engineers from the sewer company, the building department, the highway department, everybody that's involved in doing this sewer connection got around the table and they all had questions, they all solved their questions, and we're just waiting for some answers back. But the permit is being applied for to the sewer company for that. So we are right now, and I told Linda, we're still there. And working diligently towards getting there.
I guess I'm gonna have to ask a question, what will the cost for the sewer connection at all, or are you waiting?
That's what I'm waiting, that's the information I'm waiting. Thank you. The county is determining that.
Okay, thank you.
Under new business, I'd like to thank Dave Forbes, Jason Miller, and Kevin Ubrick for their assistance today. The VFW had a tank for today that they're going to restore and use for a static display out on Route 50. And they needed some help getting this thing off the trailer, and Jason and Dave and Kevin did a great job. Rick Campese, just to let you know, Jason, he texted me a couple times and said you guys did a great job. He wanted me to give you a shout out for your help today. They really appreciate it. And then I'm pretty sure if Dave burns the midnight oil here, we can set a public hearing for the budget for next Thursday at 7 o'clock. Yeah, look, I'm saying, I'm just explaining what we're doing here, so I think we need a motion to, well, I would like a motion to set the public hearing for next Thursday at 7 o'clock.
What's the fourth?
Fifth.
Fourth, Thursday's the 4th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Brenda, poll the board, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Carter.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilman Oxon.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalata.
Yes. Anything else under new business?
Do we need to set a meeting to approve the preliminary budget before then?
Yes, we do.
To approve it?
No, not to approve it, just to
To present.
just to have it presented.
Well, to make it available.
Right.
Town board has to,
Right,
essentially, we have to approve it to know that it's what we
Right.
want.
right. So we're going to have, have a special meeting on Saturday morning at
8?
8 on a Saturday? How about 9?
AM or PM?
How about 9 AM Saturday, special meeting?
The 30th.
That would be the 30th, yes. The sole purpose of this meeting is for public distribution of the budget. If something changes and we can't meet that, we will let everyone know, but yes, here and on Zoom.
9 AM, right? Doesn't you say? 9 AM?
It's 9 AM, yes. If that's it for new business? Yep, we need a motion, yep, you're right, I'm sorry. Pick a time, John, make a motion, pick a time.
You really want me to
Yep,
pick the
I do.
time? No, you don't want that. I'll make a motion, we have a special meeting Saturday at 9 AM. And that the supervisor will provide coffee.
Second.
I don't drink coffee, so I can bring it for you guys, but I don't know what, I'll just I'll bring a big cup of Joe, how's that?
Moses.
I don't think we can do that on town property. All right, so, did we get a second?
Yes.
Brendan, can you pull the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes, thank you, everyone. We will move on to
I
our,
have one more thing.
okay.
How do I want to? I am personally a friend of mayors in Alston. I worked with Larry on the planning board for many, many years. I think it would behoove this town board to send a letter or a resolution to Larry saying how much we enjoyed working with him and what a benefit it was to this town. Larry was a man that always put either the town or the village first. He never had any personal agendas. He just wanted to make a place better when he left it. He did that. Certainly with us, and he did that certainly in the village.
I would concur, John. I've known Professor Wilbright for a very long time. When he came onto the planning board, his knowledge was, it took us up a level. And under his leadership, when he was the chairman of the planning board, I think it was just a real bonus to the town, and I agree with you. I don't think the man has a mean bone in his body, and the work that he did in the village and here will last for quite some time. So yes, I'll have Jim write up some kind of resolution or a letter of recognition or something that we can sign and send to him. You don't need a motion for that, do you?
No.
Yours dead? Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, we will move on to our second public comment. Before anybody puts their hands up, Mr. Dawson's is probably tired because it's been up for a very long time. So Mr. Dawson, we're going to start with you.
You got a copy, Supervisor?
You are on, sir.
Okay, Tony Dawson, Planet Waste and Recycling, 274 Greenfield Avenue. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Barrett, I couldn't really hear his name, for his time and his explanation. I bet he had no idea what he was walking into tonight, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall in his office tomorrow. The scope of work has in fact changed from what was presented and approved to what he outlined tonight. And I'll just give a few examples. First of all, they were going to review information from the town. I would expect that would include local laws. It was specific that our team was going to conduct sound level measurements. They were going to set up noise monitoring equipment. It was going to be short-term, less than 30-minute sound level measurements. And they were going to record observations of sound sources. Any changes would be considered additional work, and this was to be done in 1 8-hour day. That is very, very different. Also, on the same topic, I would like to say that what Mr. Barrett outlined tonight was fundamentally very different from what was previously reported by Councilwoman Kerr at several meetings, including but not limited to August 11th, September 8th, October 13th, and I would strongly encourage him to watch these videos so he has an idea of what was said and stated. To save them a lot of time and effort, I'm happy to provide them with relevant clips or transcripts if you would like, because I have them readily available. I would suggest that he review with this board the components of an effective noise ordinance and what elements would have to be measured, exceeded, and to be considered to be a noise ordinance, including but not limited to the level of noise, duration, frequency, and based on his resume, I'm sure that he knows of the other issues that, other components that would go along with it, so I'm not going to waste my 3-minute time going into that. And also explain how a noise ordinance can apply to a pre-existing non-conforming manufacturing business, whereby the very nature of our business creates unusual noises even with the best management practices in place. I would also encourage him to look at the local laws, including the deed restrictions and the local laws that the adjoining neighbors or boarding neighbors are required to maintain and are currently in violation of, and how his study will be adjusted to take these issues into consideration. He indicated he did not like what he initially saw. I'm interested in exactly what he meant by that. He also asked if I would provide information. He referred to duplicating something that he saw in videos. At this time, I don't have enough information to make an informed decision, and I would like to have somebody send me the videos that he referred to so I can better understand exactly what it is that he is looking to capture from my facility. And I think that's pretty much it, and I'll conclude there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh, where to begin? Mr. Rossi.
Frank Rossi Jr. for the third time tonight, 63 Saratoga Avenue, Apartment B. First, I've got a concern that we need to stop sending Karen Stelters to these courses, because now with that training to deduce a fake ID, she's going to be moonlighting in Saratoga bars as bouncer. I think that's a bad idea. We need her here, not in Saratoga being a bouncer. Great work tonight, Karen. There was a reference to foils actually in Brenda's report, and it made me remember the fact that I had put a foil in last week, and I do appreciate her office in giving me a quick reply that they received it and sending your response, Mr. Supervisor. And I'm well aware of what the foil time limits are. However, in the heat of whatever is going on, that 4-letter word that's actually an 8-letter word, technically, that I won't say to not tick you off, people's reputations are at stake in some of the things that came out in the paper. I spoke with Wendy Libertor, who was the reporter that was turned to here, and she was not able to independently corroborate some of the things that were stated in that article that you reported on. And so that makes that FOIL request all the more important about the computer issue and questions from almost 2 years ago. I would encourage you, challenge you, whatever you want to call it, to comply with it inside the time frame before next Tuesday, that magic date, so that we avoid reputational harm to people if there shouldn't be, or at least get all sides of the story out so that we know what evidence, et cetera, has been created here, produced, whatever you want to call it. I think October surprises are the worst of us in these cycles that we go through every 2 years, 4 years, whatever. I want to state one more thing. I don't care who the supervisor is in any given municipality. The fact that we have a 2-year supervisor time frame, except in municipalities that have gotten it passed otherwise, and you can do it, is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care if I back you or don't back you in this one, in terms of my general politics. It should be 4 years. You should not be running from day one when you start on this. And yes, I picked on you about running basically way too early, I feel like, or different election things that happen. But in equal time here, I know the laws suck in this respect. I know it. And we need to start to make change like that. If a mayor can be 4 years, and a supervisor can be 4 years. We shouldn't have to put ourselves through this hell every 2 years. I don't care who wins. We can't do anything about this election, and technically we'd have to reset it for what happens in the next election to do it, but why don't we do it finally, so that we don't do this? I understand the idea, I know 30 seconds, I understand the idea is to essentially put the majority at risk because of the two-party system we're in every 2 years. I'm not worried about that. I don't think many other people should be worried about that in local politics anymore. Local politics aren't true Republicans and Democrats. You said it yourself. You're no party, yada, yada, yada. We get it. But the fact is, I know Democrats who act like Republicans, Republicans that act like Democrats locally as much as anybody. And I can embrace and appreciate that. Make this a 4-year job, folks. If the council members can be 4 years, the supervisor can be 4 years. Enough's enough here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Susan?
Hi, Suzanne Cannell, 12 Surrey Lane, Boston Spa, New York. I've been listening to an awful lot of things the last few weeks, and one of the things I do is I go to garage sales. Okay, so, and when I go to a garage sale, I usually end up talking to a lot of different people. And I heard an awful lot of things this past, I'd say 3 weeks or so, about all kinds of things, the elections, the negativity, everything. I only have a few things to say, and one of the things is, be kind to your fellow man. I'm so tired of all this ridiculousness that happens. We're all people that live in the same town. We all want the same things. We want a good town to live in. We want our kids to grow up well. We want school systems that are excellent. All kinds of things. We can all agree on that. If we can agree on that type of thing, we can agree on a lot of other things. Next thing. John Olnick and I were talking to Jim Craig, and Jim has sent a letter regarding the denial from the insurance company for the claim for the town hall. A letter was sent by Jim, so we're on our way to find out if we can get this rescinded and get some money back. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's money that belongs to we, the people of the town. I also have a question regarding the star rating. If you do go to the tax cap, does it affect the star rating? Because I remember one time there was a question about that if you went up to it. You sure? Okay. I'll take your word for it, John. If it's not right, I know to go to.
Dave said that earlier.
Pardon me?
Dave, our comptroller, said that earlier.
Well, I couldn't understand
It
it.
was rescinded in 2015.
Cool. Good. I was not here then, probably. Probably I was doing other stuff. Remember that Tuesday is a voting day. Remember that we have early voting. It's going on. I voted today myself. Be educated about your voting. I don't care who you vote for. Just get your rears and go and vote. Next thing. No, I guess I'm done. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Hers went up first, Bruce. I'll get to you.
Oh, I do have something, I forgot.
Hi, I'm Kathy Eichmann. I'm a director on the board of the Boston Area Senior Citizens. I live in a neighboring town. I've been a member since 2014. When all this started, moving us out of here, I was very disappointed in the former town board and the town board now in the neglect of their, cross that out, the community building, Milton Town Hall. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Councilwoman Barbara Kerr. She didn't always have the answer we wanted to hear, but she answered with true representation of the condition and progress, and I do appreciate that. And I appreciate your input now, John. The seniors are magnificent people. They don't adjust easily to change, but they have done a wonderful job in adjusting to gathering in different areas. We thank the Bogosian brothers so much for allowing us to be in the gym. We were able to gather again and get that community spirit back. Now we're moving again. I ask this board to think of all the seniors and the citizens as you quickly and responsibly finish your town project. The seniors are waiting with great anticipation to return to their senior community center. We were anxious to put up Christmas trees, and we won't be doing that this year. So, I had a question about collection of taxes. I know that kind of goes on at the end of this year and into the beginning of next year. have you considered where that will be happening? Will that interfere with our occupying visit?
It shouldn't, because if we're back in town hall,
Okay,
the tax collector will be back in town hall.
okay, perfect, thank you very
And I
much.
think that begins mid-January, maybe?
Yeah, the bills go out,
January 1st.
thank you.
Yeah, see, I said something wrong. I did.
Mr. Bogosian?
Can I have my 30 seconds that I didn't have already?
Of course.
I forgot something.
You're setting a horrible precedent, but okay.
I know, I am setting a trend. I do that quite frequently. Okay, one of the things that happened when I went to those said garage sales, we were talking about a bunch of different things, and it came up that there were some people that actually crawled over a fence to get into the park that was locked on Saturday because they had some sort of a party going on, but the actual place was locked. I always learned when I was a kid, if there was something locked, you don't crawl over a fence to get to it because you want to do something. So I have to say that if anything had happened to someone while they were in there, the town would be on that, liability-wise. So people have to realize, if there's a lock on a door, please don't try to go over the fence to get to there just because you have something to do. Find out why the lock is on before you break in.
Thank you.
Bruce?
Thank you. I was going to speak, but John, you opened the door. So you mentioned that the engineers got together and there was an engineer from the sewer company at the meeting. Who would that have been?
Heritage Springs.
Heritage Springs doesn't have an engineering. Is it EDP?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because what we're doing right now is the letter that the supervisor signed is with MJ, who is going to be reviewing Heritage Springs, whose engineer is EDP, and the principal at EDP is a former partner at MJ. Does anybody see any potential conflict? I guess not. But I just want to refer back to the terms and conditions based on your resolution of 2011, I believe it is. And I would have no idea why an engineer from Heritage Springs is in that meeting, because they don't have any say of how that stuff gets hooked up until after it's all done. They get a chance to review it, and if they don't get back in time, then the town engineer and the county engineer's word goes. So I don't understand why they're on the front end. The whole point of that resolution was to remove Heritage Springs from control on the front end of the process. And I see now they've inserted themselves on the front end of the process, exercising control. So I don't understand why they would have been there. That's confusing to me because it's contrary to our town code. But more importantly, I think we need to look at this. If you have somebody that is going to be writing a report on their former coworker friend, who's now Heritage Springs engineer, I mean, how do we deal with that conflict? Do we just ignore it? I mean, this lady said it best, she said just blank stares. How do we deal with conflict? What do we do as a taxpayer, as a citizen of this town? What do we do? Do we have to file an ethics complaint? What's our mechanism to resolve that? Last question, has a fee been determined that the town is going to have to pay because the contractor's not going to pay the fee?
Correct.
Has that been determined yet?
As I said earlier, Bruce, the state, or the county is in the process of determining the number of ERUs.
Okay, did Heritage Springs Engineering have any input on that?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Otten?
It's ridiculous.
So what do you think about the ethics of that?
Sharon, do you think Tony's hand is up to speak this time?
Yes, this time I think.
Okay. I just wanted to ask.
Is there for real?
No. You can share yours with her. How would you do it? You can't have a friend.
Take it right out of the stand, right?
What's that?
Take the microphone right out of the stand.
I just want everybody to notice where I put my jacket. It's over on the Toys for Tots box. It's right by the door. So if you have some Toys for Tots, they still need them. They can go here, they can come down our station, et cetera, et cetera. Please, we need all the help we can get this year. Now you can start my 3 minutes, but
I'm paying
wanna
attention
speak.
to somebody else's time, and I'm paying
Well,
attention, right?
I want to speak as the head of Community Emergency Corps, because what I have to talk about is Community Emergency Corps business. I was unable to make the budget meeting of the 18th, and I watched it back, and there were a number of questions that came up about Emergency Corps budget, and I never once got a phone call from anybody looking for answers to any of those questions. And so I wrote down the questions, and I have the answers tonight for our budget committee. I would, in the future, though I won't be in this position, in the future I think it's important that if there's questions of anybody that has a special district, that special district should be asked those questions by anybody that's having a budget committee. Because you're going to get the right answers, you're not going to get, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Question was asked, do we have any leeway to adjust the ambulance budget? Yes, but that would require substantiation of reasons for service reductions. If you're going to take money out of our budget, that budget, a lot of time and effort goes into it, and I don't know if you saw the budget. Did you see the letter of explanation that came with it, which line by line by line tells exactly where that increase is going to go and what it's going to do? So all those questions were pretty evident. Are they the only service available? No. There's a lot of agencies that are available that are in Saratoga County, but we're all suffering the same problem. We don't have enough people. There aren't enough qualified people. Hudson Valley didn't have a class last year, so there's no paramedics coming out. If you want a different agency, I don't know of anybody that would take it, honestly, because we're all stressed. We're all as far out as we can be. Are we under contract to them? Yes. We have a yearly contract, January 1st to December 31st. And you know, that has been as long as I can remember. I've been in the agency for over 40 years. Can we contract with someone else to provide ambulance coverage? I sort of go back to the other one. Yeah. But in order to do that, we are the only one in Saratoga County that has the license to work in this town. The town would have to apply for the license in order to have anybody else come in. That's what the town of Greenfield did. They applied for their own certificate of need. They hired us, and they hired Jessup Landing, which is the town of Corinth, to do EMS for them. And we both entered into a contract with them. And as of January 1st, that's stopping. Jessup Landing is going to take the whole town. So we don't have to run up to Crosswalk Chase anymore to pick people up off the floor, which we do probably 12 times a week at least.
Twice a day.
So if the town wants it, they can apply for their own certificate of need, and then you can hire anybody you want. Are they exclusively ours? No, we're not. We also contract with the town of Alston, town of Charlton, and Greenfield, which I said is ending in January. We're not paying for the town of Alston, are we? No, but they're paying an unfair share up until this year. That's what I just passed out to you folks, okay? I got a call from the controller from the town of Ballston, asking me a real good question that I didn't have an answer for. She asked me the question, why does somebody on the south side of East High Street in the village pay a higher rate than the person on the north side of East High Street in the village? I said, I don't know. You are absolutely right, they shouldn't. And so she did some magic accountant stuff that he'd understand, I didn't. So I contacted him and Benny and said, you know, this is what she's proposing, that we should all pay the same rate, and I totally agree with it. I couldn't disagree. How can you know, so we're all going to pay 49 cents per thousand this year. They have higher valuations in the town of Ballston, so they are going to pay more per household than the town of Milton. But everybody's paying the same rate, okay? And that's, again, outlined on those papers that I just gave you guys. Also on those papers that I gave you guys are our budgets from 2017 to 2022. In it, line by line by line, in its entirety, where we made adjustments, what's positive, what's negative, all those kind of things. Yeah, I know I'm over my 3 minutes.
We'll turn the timer off, right? You're presenting, so go ahead.
I'm a department head,
That's
which
right.
is the other thing, that people that are in special districts, we should be treated as a department head just as anybody else in this office, because we're presenting you budgets. We need to be communicated with. And I'm not picking on you guys because you probably won't do it the next time, okay? But, you know, whoever it is, that's the way it should work. Last year I was requested to reduce my budget proposal, which I did, but then I was told it wasn't necessary. This year, during the budget process on 10/18, it was stated that it wouldn't have been very good optics to reduce the ambulance budget. Well, to me, it's not about optics, because I'm not one that, I'm not trying to impress anybody, I'm not running for any offices. I'm Ray, and anybody that knows me here, they get it. You know, I am what I am. So if it needs to be reduced, let's work on it and say, why does it need to be reduced, and where can we reduce it? I work a very, very tight budget. If the town wants to, do we know what they spent their money on, was another question. Back when Frank Thompson was the supervisor, he was the only supervisor that I've ever been asked to see what we spent our money on. And every month, I sent him our P&L and our balance sheet. We are one of the most transparent organizations there is. We have a yearly forensic audit, which I'm going through right now for 2020. We have a CPA that comes in and tears everything apart. Everything is out for anybody to see. You want to see anything, come, it's all foilable. I hear that word a lot. It's foilable. You want it, we got it. You can have it. If the town wants to request our financial records, I have provided them in the past to the board, and so it can be done if you would like to see our forensic audits. We have done each year. I can supply you with copies of those, and I got them dating back at least 12 years. If we sell the land to the ambulance, the property on Geyser Road, we'll have another $200,000 to help balance the budget. I heard that, and I want everybody to understand, we get our money from the town. So this money that is going to be spent for the land that you guys, thank you, passed tonight, or at least got the ball rolling here, it's coming from one pocket to the other. Understand that. It's, you know, our payroll, and our payroll runs us about $1.2 million a year. We have 36,000, minimally, 36,000 man hours a year. And if you look at that, it's pretty significant. I think we discussed at one time, the town is the only one that has a bigger hours than we do. Okay. Our budget does not include any fluff. Everything is transparent. And our revenue from billing doesn't cover our payroll costs. So we hope there is now a better understanding of why we are a not-for-profit. I hope in the future that when the town's budget committee has questions, they will treat us not as a business looking to misrepresent our needs, but rather contact our office with the appropriate questions that we can answer for them. Explanations of every line item increase is provided with our budget, but I don't know if that got right. So, again, I want to be as transparent as possible. I want everybody to understand. I want you guys to see our budgets, because there was some question too that, well, they started this and now it's this. Every line item is on there. And we had this thing last year called COVID, that we went from paying, you know, a nickel for a pair of gloves to 79 cents for a pair of gloves. We went from paying 22 cents for a mask to $1.22. And that's just PPE stuff. You do not know. You know, one of those monitors we come in your houses with is $34,000. You know, we had to replace 2 of them this year. You know, so there's a lot of, if you put medical on anything, it suddenly gains value. You know, it just does. So again, hopefully I've answered some questions. I'm sorry I took up extra time. Felt it needed to be done, and good luck in next week's election, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I don't want to speak for the entire budget committee, but I don't think, Ray, that anybody was actually like questioning your motives or your numbers. I think they were just questions that maybe they had without any malice or bad intent to the ambulance.
I didn't think it was malice or anything like that, but again, had I known that that was going to be discussed that night, I would have been here. And
that's on me, Ray. I didn't.
I know these things, I can show up.
Yep. I didn't think of you as a department head. If that's my mistake, it won't happen again.
No. Again,
I apologize.
I just want everybody to know. I want everybody to know. Thank you.
Hang on a second. Tony's had his hand up for quite a while, and I'm hoping it's really him. So, Tony.
Oh, geez.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Tony.
I'd just like to thank the board there. I think you started cleaning up the zombie property near our house on Rollins Street. I saw a truck there taking garbage out. I don't know if it was you or the people there, but it's been a disgrace for a long time. I mean, I take care of the lady's yard in back of it, and I've seen rats over there. But thank you anyway for taking care of this. And second, I don't understand this sewer problem. It's been going on for 5 years now, and it seems to me that the field is not level for everybody. Why hasn't this been done, taken care of 5 years ago? I don't care who's in office. It's way overdue. So, and thirdly, I probably shouldn't say this, but I am. As politicians, you should respect the people who elected you. But that post on the Republican, I don't know who it was, posted giving somebody the finger at saying it was my wife and making fun of Dave, which I don't know. I would know if I stepped on him, making fun of him because he stuttered. That's a disgrace. That's a downright disgrace. And if they would do that to this gentleman, what would they do to the taxpayers? How low are they going to go? It's a disgrace. Anybody with a disability to make fun of them, they should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tom.
Oh, God. I don't even want to hear myself. Believe me. Put four-wheel drive medical on it, Ray, and it really gets real expensive. Okay?
That it didn't work.
Maybe you need to see Mr. Otten. He has a forensic audit done every year. That's what you need to be doing with the sewer company, folks. And thank you, Mr. Licata. I knew your father. I know you. You're a good guy, Tony. I got one question. Who was the engineer from
EDP that we met with. What was his name?
To be honest with you, I was introduced, Tom, I don't remember his name.
Really?
Jenny brought one engineer from their company,
What company?
from EDP, you mean? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Huh?
Mike McNamara.
Mike McNamara?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he was retired.
Mike McNamara's retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's retired.
Mm-hmm. He's not listed as engineer.
So who's the guy you met with?
I don't know if he's retired or not.
He's retired.
Yeah, he's retired.
Who was him?
Well, that's who was on there.
It was him, huh? It was Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Great. He's retired. Excellent. And I thought he was an officer of Heritage also. That's what they're listing about in court papers. He's an officer of Heritage. Wow. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, Sharon, we'll get you.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Michael Landis, 272.
You got a phone somewhere there, Michael?
Glad to get rid of that thing, I hate it. Michael Landis, 272 Meadowlark Drive. I know it's late, I'm sorry, but I feel like someone should speak for the residents concerning the Planet issue. It shouldn't only be Mr. Dawson. Just a couple things. First of all, thank you to the board for pursuing the sound study. We appreciate that. We ask you to follow through with it. You had the expert come and stand here, and I appreciate his courage and his willingness to kind of take whatever we had to give him. And he told you what needs to happen next. Go in there and have the the procedures performed live and have the testing done live in real time, not just the measurements that he's going to do, which are really important, but you need to go in there. We're asking you guys to have a little courage. I don't mean to talk down to you. I appreciate what you've done, but it seems like you guys are a little bit afraid or intimidated by this guy. He's in the wrong. We presented you with a 3 or 4 page report about all the ways this guy is in the wrong. Have some courage. Tell him you're going in there, we're going to measure this stuff, we're going to re-examine your license, and yes, the licensing is up again, the pseudo-licensing in December, if I recall. Please correct me if I'm wrong, you have to decide that. We're going to be watching this. Sound is only one piece of this puzzle. And keep in mind, there's also the seismic stuff, right? So if you guys think that you're just going to do this little study, not actually follow through with what the expert says, and kind of say, oh, well, we dealt with that issue, that's not going to go with us. We're committed to this. This is our lives. And don't let him delay. Delay, he wins, right? You guys get it? He's going to delay. He's going to tell you all the reasons why a butterfly fluttered in Singapore, and now we've got to delay another few months. He wins. That's what he wants. We live with it in our backyard. Our house shakes. We wake up to crashing and booming. You know this already. Go to the next step. Follow the experts. Take the measurements in real time on the property. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good night.
Anyone else? Sharon?
Nobody in front of you. Sharon Licata, 4 Ichabod Lane. I would like to say that I saw these Facebook posts and I was appalled at the behavior of people who have a lot of power. And I would like to say that making it appear that David Bramer was flipping me off, and I was told that it was directed at me by that person who answers that page. And I know it was not, okay? That would never have been directed at me from David Bramer. I have the utmost respect for him. I don't know if disability is the right word, but David's very shy. And he's difficult to, he finds it difficult to speak in public, if I may say so. Is he here? Where is he? Hi, Dave. But if you've ever sat with him one-on-one, you would know how truly brilliant he is. And if you've ever read anything that he's written, I will tell you it is PhD quality, excellent writer, and very, very, very smart. But I found it so disrespectful, and I know that elections get dirty, but I have never seen such filth. And I just wish that we could all rise above that. Every party, I don't care what you are. One of the things that Larry Woolbright did that I found incredible was on his ballot, it didn't tell you what party you were affiliated with. You voted for the person. Party wasn't on it. And I wish everyone would adopt that policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Got one person on Zoom. Ms. McFarland?
Hi, Betty, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Well, listen, I had to chime in on the comments, and especially on the heels of the Woolbright resignation, because, you know, we've seen this stuff for many years, and it infuriates me as well to see people calling, you know, it's the pot calling the kettle black. And I have to specifically address the Licatas, who I am appreciative of the fact that they recognize that sometimes disabilities can't be seen, but their conduct, their behavior online is intense, it's offensive, I find it rude. So just to sort of balance the conversation a little bit, things that happen online and in person are very, very different. And I agree that a better tone needs to be taken, but this whole idea that the way you're seeing something or interpreting something is the way everybody sees it and thinks it is simply not correct. And I appreciate their sensitivity to possible disabilities, but they can't sit in judgment of people's behavior without monitoring their own. And I think that's a good message for all of us, to look at your own behavior before you sit in judgment of someone else. Why are you shaking your head, Benny? Did I confuse you?
No, ma'am. I'm trying to answer a question from the floor at the same time, so.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, no problem. So that's it. Just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony, I see your hand is up, but you had your 3 minutes, and we're not going to do that here. So with that, I will close public comment, and I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss employment issues.
I will make that motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Does anyone here have a red light?
I'll second.
Can you pull the board, please, Brenda?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hurd.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalata.
Yes. I don't believe any action will be taken when we come out of executive session. Yes. I will be pausing the recording.
Recording stopped. Star Valley